My name's Sarah, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the day after. What it was like the day after my late husband, Sheldon, died on a cruise out at sea. Thank God we were coming into the port, and the different support that awaited us, unbeknownst to me. This is Discover Hope, stories of spoken hope, when the script of your life gets flipped. Hey everyone, thanks for being here. Today we're going to be talking about what did we do the day after Sheldon died while on a cruise. Thank God we were coming into the port that night. So we had been on a week's vacation in the Caribbean and we were porting back in Galveston, Texas. We live in Washington State, but if I was on the other side of this, I'd be like, what does someone even do? And so the intent of Discover Hope as we evolve and grow is the heart behind each episode is that I would tell you what happened and then my own experience of what I found to be helpful. And so I'll start here with what happened. So as you may know, my late husband, Sheldon, and father of our 4 kids passed away suddenly while we were on a cruise. And he was only 40 years old. And so in the last episode, I talked about that day. And I just wanted to say, if you're back from listening to that one, thank you. That was a necessary episode to put out. And also, I did think there were beautiful things in that. And so as we go into today's episode, I'm kind of picking up with that same spirit, which is obviously this is like my worst nightmare came true, to tell you the truth, like my worst nightmare. And if you would have 8 years ago, if you've been like, oh my gosh, this woman and their family and the 4 kids, and then I would literally be like, I would have jumped off the ship too. You know what I mean? Like, how do you come back from that? And so here we go. So we wake up the next morning. And like I said, thank God that we were porting. And so side note to that, you know, those are those things, you guys, that I don't force myself to see life that way, but I am naturally bent to a more positive disposition. It does not mean that I didn't have days and nights of kicking and screaming and why me, why us, this is unfair. But I always, and I'm happy for this, and I'm saying this because if it wasn't like my natural, okay, well, life's going to be okay. I'm not meaning that, but I just had this thing in me that was I think it was determination, to tell you the truth. I was like, this can't be where my life stops. This can't be we have these beautiful children and then they just grow up to be misfits. You know what I mean? And I tapped into the possibility essentially. And so even when I said that, thank God that it was the last day at sea, because he could have died the first day. Then what do you do? You know what I mean? I'm sure there's those of you out there that are like, I can tell you what you do. So anyway, we come into the port, and the cruise line that we were on they were wonderful and so helpful and just kind. But I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise. That was my first one. But when you're getting off the ship, there's 3,000 people on your boat. And then when you're getting off your boat, there's 3,000 people getting ready to come on. So you're essentially talking about 6,000 people in this. It did feel kind of like a cattle herding. I will say that. So anyway, I mean, we're just dazed. I mean, we're dazed. You're literally just putting one foot in front of the other. And so we're sitting outside because we'd gotten off and we're out there waiting for our Uber driver. And again, just as you can imagine, just with the look of death in your eyes, you know? And I'm sitting there, and in my mind, I'm just kind of I can't believe that. I can't, as you can imagine, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened. And all of a sudden, I pictured Sheldon playing basketball the night before, and I was picturing the guys he was with. And I literally said in my heart, oh, what I wouldn't give to see one of those guys right now. And find out, and be able to be did he seem Like he was suffering. Like, did he say anything? Like, because he just died so fast. And no sooner had I had that thought, I am not kidding, one of the guys that he was guarding, the main guy that he was guarding in these 3 games, walks right in front of me with his wife, what I assume is his wife. And I, like a crazy woman, I'm on the ground just sitting there like, "Meh." And then I jump up and he like walks by me and I didn't grab him, but I was like, excuse me. And he kind of turned around like this weird lady. And I was like, do you remember you were playing basketball last night, right? And he was like, yeah. And I go, okay, do you remember the dark-haired guy that you were guarding? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, that was my husband. And I just looked at him. I'm like, he died right after that game. And the guy just looks at me, just saucers for eyes. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I know. And I just looked at him. I said, did he say anything? And the guy just looks at me and he goes, no. And then it's like, when somebody kind of looks off, he goes, no, he was just so happy. And I was like, he was? And he's like, yeah. And then he takes a moment because we're all standing around, like, what did he say? And he's like, to everybody, like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. But isn't that amazing? And you will find me often as we carry on with Discover Hope podcast, I'll say, like, look for the good. With Mr. Rogers, like his movie came out a couple years ago and it was like, look for the helpers. I say in my life, look for the good, because like joy and sorrow can coexist. It's not easy, and it doesn't take away the reality of the feelings that we have to go through and the sadness and the awfulness. But when we're looking for the good, it's like we've anchored ourselves to something positive instead of like, just like, this is the worst. And like, like the negativity. And so I'm so thankful for that good moment that we got to have. And so from there, we end up going to stay the night in a hotel, obviously in Galveston, because we had to we had to decide what to do with Sheldon. Because like they had like the morgue came to get him off the ship. I mean, you guys, still, as I'm talking about this, it's like, yeah, like those are those like things you're just taking care of in the moment, but you're kind of like, now that I'm saying it in this light, I'm like, that's so weird. So we end up going to the hotel, and it was my mom, the kids and I, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, Sheldon's family. So we all go to the hotel, we get rooms, and then we go to the funeral home, and they were wonderful. Like, they were wonderful. And I hope this isn't creepy, but I'm going to tell you this because the gal that helped us, so it was my brother-in-law Sherman and my mother-in-law Stephanie and I, and she's like, being so sensitive. She's like, I'm so sorry to have to ask you this, but did Sheldon have any tattoos or identifying markers or anything? And we were like, this is funny. We were like, well, he had a tramp stamp because there was one summer of 1999 that tramp stamp for guys was cool. And he nailed it that one summer. And, but in addition to that, he had 3 star tattoos on his forearm, even though he had 4 kids. He had never gotten his star for Cash, and Cash was only 6 years old. And so, I think we showed a picture. I don't remember what we did, but Sherman literally says to her, like, oh, there's no way you could put Cash's on there, could you? She goes, I could. And she did. She like stenciled. I hope this might sound gross to you, but it's like, it's amazing to us. She literally she copied his tattoo from up here, put it down here. So we have like the completion of Sheldon's tattoo. Yeah, those are the things you find good in death. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's awkward, but to me, that's like beautiful. And to you, you're like, you're traumatizing me. Move on. Okay, I will. So we go and take care of that. And then, and basically kind of what I felt like is when I had like a to-do, like I needed to take care of something, I could show up. And then when it was like I just had to be in the grief and the suffering, It was like, I felt like I was out of my mind, literally. And so go back to the hotel. And at this point, it's kind of hitting us more because we're now almost hitting the 24-hour marker. And it's real. Like, you get adrenaline in those settings of life. And thank God that we're wired, that God gives us that. Such a gift. So at this point, I'm wanting to lose my ever-loving mind and scream and cry. But yet, one, I'm in a hotel, and when I'm with my family, and three, I'm a mom of a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old who just lost their dad. And so you are a little bit to yourself, like, be the adult. But then you're like, but what does the adult do? You know what I mean? So this is how I kind of want to formulate our podcast moving forward, or at least have this element is like what happened, but then what helped. So I talked to one of my sisters, Megan, or somehow either I talked to her or the news gets to Megan that, like, yeah, Sarah's kind of losing her shit, but what do we do? Because what was really happening was Ruby Love, my daughter, was losing hers. And so, just my wiring was kind of like I need to take a back seat and I need to be able to take care of her, essentially. But then my whole body, like, forget like just my want to like lose my mind. My body was feeling it. You know what I mean? But my brain was like, no, you got to hold it together and be there for your daughter. So my sister's friend is a very, very successful therapist in Scottsdale, and to where she has a lot of therapists that work with her. That will come into play in another episode. But so by God's grace, I end up on the phone with Rachel. And again, a lot of this is blurry. One of my sister's best friends, who's the therapist down in Scottsdale. And I've noticed this very special gift that people can have. And it's not, you don't have to be a therapist. Like, I can tell you this and you could be like, oh, that's an option when someone's suffering. And I mentioned it before, but they say that laughter's the sound of healing. And I wouldn't have been able to tell you this then, like on February 25th, but I can tell you this now because of what I've learned. But I experienced it. So I get on the phone with Rachel and I'm like, Rachel, I'm losing my mind. I'm like losing my mind. And I know that that's okay. But like Ruby loves losing her mind. And I feel like as her mom, I need to like let her and be there for her. But I said, Rachel, but when Ruby loves like losing it, my body, like I actually physically felt like I was going to explode. And when I tell you this, you guys, I can be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. This was like real. And here's the laughter is the sound of healing. She did this giggle. She goes, oh, Sarah. And I remember I heard my sister did that at one point, and then another therapist did that at one point. And my sponsor, that'll come in later in life, but I've had 4 distinct experiences when somebody did that expression, and it's like it was like a calming breath. Isn't that interesting? Well, it's also science I came to learn. But so Rachel says, oh, Sarah, she goes, where are you? I'm like, I'm in the bath. I hope that's okay. She goes, that's actually perfect. She goes, where's the water line? And I'm like, I don't know, like at my, here. And she goes, okay, I want you to slink down into the tub, like dip down. And she goes, if you can, I want you to get the water line to your heart. So where it's hitting your heart. And I've since learned, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not a professor of therapy. So I'm just a girl that went through the worst. I believe it's called your parasympathetic system. Yeah, I think Google it or ChatGPT it. But it's where like our body was designed to heal. Like we have internal facilitators that are like when we go through something, they're like know to come into play. But if we don't know it, so that's why I feel so great being like, I hope this helps. This helped me, but I hope it helps you. So she says, okay, slink down into the water. And she goes, okay, I want you to put your hand on your heart. Like even as I do that, I can take a breath. She goes, I want you to put your hand on your heart and I want you to put one hand on your belly. And she goes, Sarah, this is your one job now. Your job is to breathe. She goes, breathe in Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And even as I do that, like I know I'm in a podcast studio, but I feel the room go even quieter than the soundproofing. And she said, Sarah, literally, your one job right now, you can't fix this. You're now in a reality that you didn't know is real, and it's real. So she said, you have one job, and it's to just keep breathing. And I was like, that sounds awful. Because I want to like take the hill. You know what I mean? And she's like, I get it, girl, but even you can't. There's no circumventing this. There's no shortcut. There's no way around it. The only way that you are going to heal, Sarah, is by going through it. And it's gonna take time. She goes, okay, now for you and the kids. She goes, I want you to turn your hand over. Okay, so you guys could see my hand in the screen. She said, look at the top of your palm. She goes, that now signifies your shared experience that you and the kids all just had in losing Sheldon. So she goes, just by chance, there's 5 of us left after the 6-pack of Cokes, because our last name was Coke. So it's, you, Scout, Rocco, Ruby Love, and Cash. And she said, listen to me. You all 5 are now on your own path of healing. Even though, and as the mom, you're going to give them resources, you're going to give them guidance, you're going to give them support, you're going to introduce them to other helpers and healers in their life. But you're just the mom. And Sarah, you're a woman, like you're a human being. You lost your husband. And yes, you're going to be there because you're a good mom, but there's no blueprint for this. And she goes, you can't fix this for them. You can't make them do this. So I did have my kids go to counseling, and I said to them, listen, I don't expect you to like it, but they're all athletes, and they're all actually really like, when I say oddly good, like literally like freakishly good athletes. And I would say that if I'd be like, yeah, there's this family in town. They're amazing. And they're even more wonderful human beings, which I love. But I said to the kids, I was like, to the big boys, especially because they were 14 and 12, I said, listen, if you hurt your knee, you'd be going to physical therapy. Your heart's broken, whether you want to admit it or not. So you're going. And they did. And I'm very thankful. To what degree, whatever, they showed up. I'll take it. And they were willing. Double take it. So when Rachel said that, it doesn't mean that I didn't go into turbo mode. It doesn't mean that I didn't, my brain didn't hijack it. My system didn't hijack my brain and be like, fix this for them. But I am telling you, to have another human being give you permission to not, basically to tell you, you can't fix this. You can be kind. You can be loving. And I'll kind of start tailoring this to the end here. So one, that was so helpful. And really, you guys, that's what I found. If I thought of some days, I would even say, like, I would wake up and go, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I mean, just kicking and screaming and crying and hurting and feeling disoriented and feeling confused. And then you just go get groceries. Like, that is the most bizarre thing in the whole world. Like, I know that not everyone will identify to being like pregnant, and I'm not trying to have that be the main identifier, but like if somebody's in crutches or if they're in a wheelchair, if somebody has a distinct disability, it's like we know how to approach appropriately, but we don't know if somebody's husband just left the night before. We don't know if someone's so overdrawn in their account and they bit off more of a mortgage than they can take. We don't know if somebody's getting blood work that morning and it's going to dictate a really big outcome for their life expectancy. Like, don't you wish that, like I did, I used to say, wish that we could wear like a thing around our arm that said like I'm in a color, like this is my grief color. You know what I mean? But we don't have that. And so essentially what I found for myself is I had to learn how to give that to myself. And then I found languages, and then I found the world of where the language existed. For example, I'll go way more into this later in another episode, but something that I ended up learning about is the style of therapy. It's called EMDR, eye movement desensitization remembrance. And it's amazing. I've done it, and then the kids all did it themselves. And I went to an adult person that did it, and then the kids obviously went to somebody that worked with adolescents and kids. And I went with the kids into their appointments. They asked me to. And they went to like 7 or 8 sessions each because that's the style of therapy that it is. And so, excuse me, in one of the sessions, because we buried Sheldon 9 months after he died, because it was such a shock. And I wanted to do it with intention, But so we all did EMDR before the burial, because I just was like, well, I guess we prepare ourselves for that. And after one of the kids' sessions, I sat there and I just lost it with the therapist. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Mind you, it had been almost 9 months. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, when does this get easier? When does it get better? Like, when does it stop hurting so bad? And she looked at me and goes, what do you mean? What do you mean exactly? How are you going to do this? I'm like, with the kids. And she looked at me like, Sarah, you can't. I was like, like when a new thought is introduced to you, I was like, what? And she goes, have you been thinking that you're going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. She goes, okay, let me give you this. And this is something else that helped me, and I hope it helps you. She said, Sarah, do you know that it is 100% healthy when you're having a down day, when you're having a sad day, when you're having a I can't think day, when you're having a day, because the kids were all at ages that it's like I could tuck away in my room for a little bit, Mind you, COVID hit just a year and a half after he died. So we were together a lot. She goes, do you know that it's healthy for you to say, hey guys, I'm having a really sad day, and I think I'm going to be napping a lot, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to do this. But I want you to know that I'm the adult and you're the kid, or you're the child, and you're not responsible for my feelings, and you're not responsible for my healing. And I want you to know that I have enough to take care of you, to provide for you, to nurture you, and to be here for you, and to be sad. So I know it might not feel comfortable, but I am sad, but I don't want to hide from you, because this is real, and I'm going to get better. I know it's going to get better, but I'm just having a hard day. And do you know, they'd go, oh, okay. Like, talk about the power of addressing the elephant in the room, owning your part, right? Like, hey, I'm the adult. It's not like, well, my husband died. No, I'm the mom. I am sad. My husband did die, and your dad died. And as a wife and woman, I'm going to go feel my feels. But if you need anything, let me know, because I can do that too. So yeah, that's what helped. Yeah. I think sometimes I feel like I have to have this big crescendo closing, and I'm realizing that I don't, because this is a unique space, and yeah, and not everything has to have a cherry on top, and not everything has to feel like, isn't that awesome? Some days it's just, we're going to end the podcast with, yeah, that's what happened, and that's what helped. But, okay, I will end it with this. I've always thought about how many people Sheldon's death impacted, right? Like, I have siblings. Like, what was it like to be the sibling? I have a mom. What was it like to be a mom? What was it like to be a friend? What was it like to be the neighbor? And I always wanted this space to also come with information to people. Like, if you're the neighbor of somebody that just got diagnosed, or you're the friend of the person that just went through the divorce, like, what do we say? What do we do? And I have a friend, I'll end it with this. Her name's Rachel McKenty. Sheldon died right at the beginning of lacrosse season, and the two big boys, all of the kids play lacrosse, but the big boys were getting going. And I have a girlfriend, and I had just shown up to one of the first games because I didn't go to everything. I didn't want to, because it was like, I'll go when I want to talk about it, but I didn't want to go and put myself in it, if I was like more like frail or just like, and I'm a person that will cry in public and all of that. But anyway, this was one, I remember when she did this, I was like, that was beautiful. So I go to the game, I'm walking by myself, just kind of walking wherever everybody is. And I see Rachel McKenty coming my way, and she comes over and she looks right at me. She puts her hands on my shoulder. She's wearing really cute Sorel boots. I do remember that. And she puts her hands on my shoulder and goes, Sarah, this freaking sucks. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry this happened. I have no idea what to say, but I wanted to give you a hug. She gave me the best hug of my life, and off she went. Be a Rachel McKenty. Like, there is nothing you can say. You can't fix this because you now are on this path too of the person that was lost or the divorce or the disappointment or the diagnosis. You don't have to be a helper or you don't have to be a hero. Just be a helper. And if you can't say anything, just be a hugger. And if not, wave. There's beautiful people out there. There's a lot of good. I encourage you to look for it, and I encourage you to anchor into it because it's going to be that gets you through the worst of the worst. And I'll be here too. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. All right, before we go, if Discover Hope has helped you or encouraged you at all, I wanted to invite you to be a part of the bigger picture. One way you could do that would be by subscribing, liking, or sharing any of the episodes with someone you think might benefit from it, or even on your social media platforms. Another way you could do this if you'd like to make a donation or even sponsor an episode on behalf of someone you love, you can do that by clicking the link to discoverhope.org below, or you can head on over to our website where you can make donations there or also sponsor at discoverhope.org. You guys, thank you for being a part of this. It's a dream come true. And I truly believe that we are giving grief a language and making room for an abundant amount of hope. Thanks so much.